Hey everyone, this is a great chapter of One Piece, starting with the color spread. I guess this is kind of Oda's way of saying that we will still be in Wano when the Olympics come around in 2020, which, are in Tokyo. So now we get the answer to which Olympic sport would the Straw Hats be likely to compete in? They all make sense. The only one that's a little bit weird is like Chopper with boxing, but overall I think they're all good. Sanji looks badass. Robin looks very elegant. Nami looks great with the tennis outfit. I thought for sure Zoro was going to be doing fencing, but he's doing baseball. And the bats say persistent pays, or persistent pays off. Pretty good reminder there. So we start off and Luffy just doesn't hold back any punches. He's just like, straight up, Ace is gone. He's dead. That's what happened to him. And I think that the reason why he's able to do that and just say it so matter-of-factly is because he's been able to grieve that loss. Like, he's been able to process it and accept it, and that's why it's like, it's just, this is the truth. This is what happened to him. Like, he even tells Tengu at one point, it doesn't matter how long she waits, he's not coming back. So I feel like that's a sense of, like, acceptance that he's reached with that. We find out that Tengu is actually a blacksmith, or a bladesmith, and he collects female Kokeshi dolls. These are what they look like. They're like little wooden dolls, kind of simple. And he says that he's also been there waiting for somebody. Now, given the fact that he's a blacksmith and he has two rare swords in his possession, I'm thinking the reason for why he's been waiting is one of two. One, because he's a bladesmith, he's either waiting to make a sword or he's waiting for somebody to break the curse of the Nidai Kitetsu. I wonder if the curse of the sword was actually the thing that turned him into a Tengu. But anyway, we find out that the village that they're in is called Amigasa, which is a type of straw hat, and here's a picture of it. And it's funny because if you look at the top of the houses when he's describing the village and Drake's attack, you'll notice that the top of the houses are designed like an Amigasa. And you see like an X, so I'm guessing like that's how Drake leaves his mark. He leaves an X for X Drake. It says Drake became a headliner over a year ago, which is the same rank as Hawkins. And I'm guessing Apu has the same rank at this point, but it's also the same rank as Sheepshead. And it's kind of like, what's going on with these ranks, man? Because I don't think Drake is it. I think Drake would be a little bit tougher than Sheepshead. So maybe it's just like a title, not really like a power scaling hierarchy kind of thing. But anyway, yeah, so that's his rank, or at least it was back then. And then, apparently, did Drake defeat 5 samurai? Was that all him? Like, was that all his work? Are we to assume that X-Drake took on 5 samurai by himself and was successful in destroying this village? Or was this a team effort by Drake in addition to more of Kaido's men? Like, that scene of the village being destroyed, that really reminds me of Zoe. So I don't know. Was Jack going around wrecking stuff? Let me know what you think. Did Drake solo this village or not? And I like how Ace's ship landed on the shore of Wano the same way that the Sunny did, which is on its side. I guess they got caught up in the same whirlpool. Another thing that this chapter kind of does indirectly is that it gets very close to confirming that the Ace novel is in fact canon, because during the Ace flashback, you clearly see like members of the Spade Pirates. One of them, I believe, is called Aggie 68, the one with the metal robotic gun-like arm. And there's other characters as well. Like there's another character in one of the panels called Mihar. And Ducky Bree, I think that's his name. I think he's the one who's pretending to be tied up in that panel along with Ace. And so apparently 4 years ago there was famine, and it got me thinking about, okay, so the samurai couldn't protect the village against Drake and his men, and apparently they couldn't protect the village against hunger either. Assuming, of course, that the samurai were in fact in charge of protecting the village 4 years ago. That being said, I think this is a very cool reminder of Ace's character, because he was just pretending to be tied up just so that the people could eat, so they wouldn't starve to death. I thought that was cool, and it even makes Luffy laugh because, I mean, what a way to be remembered, right? It's like, oh yeah, hey, it's my brother. That sounds like something my brother would do. And so then Luffy wants to get a doctor for O-Tama, and so he changes into his Wano outfit, which for now happens to be a kimono similar to the one that Tama has because it's full with like patches and stuff. He said he wanted like to wear a Kabuto armor.
he just likes armors. But Hitetsu tells him no, because you're going to stand out way too much with this. And he says, you know, I would accompany you, but I can't go into town with you. And I wonder if he was vanished, if he's like, you know, not supposed to go in there because of something he did, or if it's a curse from the sword that he's talking about. But he also says that if Luffy happens to come across any of his allies or friends in town, they will help Luffy for free. So I'm wondering if he's talking about other Kozuki clan sympathizers. I feel like this chapter is Oda kind of like checking off a lot of boxes about stuff that he really wanted to draw in Wano. Like, I really want to draw Luffy in a kimono with a top knot. Or I really want to draw Luffy with a katana, even though I know full well that he doesn't know how to use swords. And so Luffy takes off with the Nidai Kitetsu, and he mentions that the Kitetsu, that name sounds familiar. And it's because Zoro actually has the Sandai Kitetsu. And so I'm just going to give you like a brief breakdown of the swords in the world of One Piece, like, you know, according to rarity. So in the One Piece world, there are like 12 Saiho Owasumono grade swords. Those are the rarest swords in the world, right? There's only 12 of them. Mihawk has one, his black sword, that the Yoru, that's its name. Then there's 21 Owasumono grade swords. And the Nidai Kitetsu, which appears in this chapter, happens to be one of them. And so the way the sword grading works is that you start with 12, then you go down to 21, and then you go down to 50, which are the Ryo Owasumono, I believe. Now here's the thing. I'm pretty sure that the Nidai Kitetsu is introduced in this chapter because it's going to go to Zoro. I think Zoro is getting ready to replace his Sandai Kitetsu with the Nidai Kitetsu. Because the sword that Zoro has right now is technically from a lower rank than the one that Luffy took with him. So Zoro right now has 3 swords, as we know. One is the Wado Ichimonji, that's the one that he inherited from Kuina. He also has Shusui, which he got from Ryuma, and he also has the Sandai Kitetsu. Now the Sandai Kitetsu he got in Logtown. He got it off from that salesman for free, actually. The salesman didn't want to sell it because it was cursed. And all the Kitetsu swords, apparently, according to legend, are cursed because the swordsmen who wield them end up dead. So the salesman didn't want to sell that sword to Zoro, but he was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to test it. You know, let's see what's stronger, my luck or this sword's curse. Because if I lose an arm here, then that pretty much means that I wasn't meant to go very far after all anyway. So I might as well just try this. So he flips the sword, throws it into the air, and it misses his arm by like a couple of inches or something like that. But the thing that's curious here is that, you know how in Harry Potter it's like the wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter. In One Piece it's like the sword chooses the swordsman. And in Zoro's case it's almost as if he has to overcome a challenge and be tested in order to be able to earn the right to carry the swords that he has. So I don't even know if like using the word cursed is appropriate, because I think the Kitetsu swords just kind of like want to make sure that whoever wields them is worthy. So I'm very curious to find out what kind of a challenge Zoro will have to overcome to be able to, you know, earn the right to wield Nidai Kitetsu. That being said, the reason for why I think that Nidai Kitetsu will replace Sandai Kitetsu is because out of the 3 swords that Zoro has, Sandai Kitetsu is the only one that's not one of the 21 Owasumono swords. Wado Ichimonji and Shusui all belong to the same group of 21 rare swords, right? So, and then Nidai Kitetsu belongs to the same group as well. So if Zoro replaces Sandai Kitetsu with Nidai Kitetsu, he would have the Trinity. The Trinity of, well, 3 swords that belong to the same group of the 21 Owasumono swords. And then Hitetsu also says, and this is something that I anticipated from the last chapter, that the sword that he has that he didn't want to give to Luffy, that he didn't want to trade, even though both swords are technically his, it's rare as well. So I'm guessing the one that he has is either part of the group of the 21 or part of the 50. So again, just to repeat this, in the world of One Piece, the rarest group is a group of 12 swords. Mihawk has one of them. Then after that is a group of 21 swords. Zoro, I think, is about to have 3 of them. And then the 50 swords that come after that, the Ryo Owasumono. So my question is, do you think that Zoro will ever get his hands on one of the 12? Maybe Hitetsu has been waiting all this time for a swordsman that is good enough to carry the will of Ryuma or something, and so he's been waiting for a swordsman to show up that's good enough so that he can actually produce and make a sword, a brand new one. Also, it's pretty much a guarantee at this point that Shiryu has one of these swords as well. The question is, what group does Shiryu's sword belong to? I don't know why, but there's also a shot of Whitebeard's Bicento in the chapter, as if to imply that maybe the Bicento blade was also rare. But I also think that part of the message that Oda is trying to push here is that, yes, a good sword should fit a good swordsman. You know, they should kind of like go hand in hand. But the sword doesn't make the swordsman. Because we saw what Zoro did with that little McDonald's butter knife a couple of chapters back. So, anyhow, in this chapter, O-Tama wears the straw hat. That's big. There's a scene where she's crying on Luffy's shoulder, and she literally has the same expression that Ace had when he died. And she's thinking back about like how she asked him, "Please, Ace, take me out to sea with you." And I don't want to jump the gun here. Like, if you guys have been watching my One Piece reviews for a while, you know that I'm very conservative when it comes to some of my predictions for the most part. But I think, as of this chapter, I think that Carrot was prepping us for O-Tama. I mean, those words are literally the same words that Robin says back in Enies Lobby. She's wearing the straw hat. And I'm just going to throw this out there, if she were ever to join, and I'm not saying that she will, but if she were ever to join, she can be the kunoichi of the ship. She'd be like, my dream is to become the world's greatest kunoichi. So when you guys arrive in Raftel, I'm going to split and make my way to Konoha. I kind of got the impression that Tama had like a little crush on Ace, if I'm being quite honest. So she's hitting Luffy, and Luffy says, you know, what you're doing isn't really hurting, but can you please stop? So they arrive at Pride Rock after Scar takes over. You see Kaido's factories in the distance there and how they've been polluting the crap out of everything. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that Croco shark is actually like a mutation because of all the pollution and chemicals that have been dumped out of these factories. And what this does, though, I think, is that it kind of like paints a picture for how the arc is going to end, like after Kaido is taken down. You can put two and two together and come to the conclusion that eventually this area, after the arc is over, will reflourish, and, you know, crops will grow and animals will be healthy instead of, like, you know, being poisonous, and Tama will have something to eat that isn't just like a little cup of rice. Now, before fainting and succumbing to a fever, Tama actually says that the samurai that would be strong enough to deal with the creatures in the wasteland are either captured or they turned to bandits. So they've gone rogue, I guess. Not to be rude or anything, but this chapter kind of like de-hyped the samurai a bit for me. Zoro saves a woman in the distance from some bandits, and if I'm being quite honest, it was a little bit weird that it took Luffy as long as it did to recognize that it was Zoro. But I guess, I feel like at some points, like, Luffy just completely shuts down his observation haki. So anyway, they reunite, and Luffy gives Zoro a version of the same hug that he kind of gave Sabo when he found out he was alive. Also, Zoro is wearing a new outfit in this chapter, different from the one that, you know, he had on when he split that building in half. So this also gets me thinking that Luffy will change out of that kimono into something else at some point during the arc. But what's funny is that Luffy notices that he has meat, and he's telling Zoro, oh, you shouldn't eat that. It's poisonous. But it's like, you're eating the meat that you're telling him not to eat. So it's kind of like this ongoing gag between Luffy and Zoro in terms of like how they have like similar character traits. And, you know, I'm really glad that Oda decided to separate them together, if that makes sense. Because, look, when it comes down to the story, this is how One Piece started. One Piece started with Luffy and Zoro. It was their journey. Nami came in, you know, very, very soon afterward. But for the most part, it's like, this is like the foundation of the crew. And I mean, everybody contributes something new and unique to the crew as a whole. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, like, it's these two. It's like, this is Mama and Papa. I don't care who you think it's Mama and Papa, but you understand, it's an example. Like, even just like Zoro taking out those bandits. What did Luffy do just a couple of chapters ago? Just like, what, like 2 chapters ago? It's the same thing. He rescued a female from bandits. And by the way, we don't get to see the face of the female that Zoro rescued. And I don't know if that's for dramatic effect to keep the audience in the dark about the fact that it was Zoro just for us to discover that it's Zoro along with Luffy, or if that character is somebody who's going to be very important or is already very important in the story.
Then we have Hawkins show up, riding a Keating. You should recognize the Keating because it's one of Sasuke's lightning techniques. And he says something pretty interesting. He says, in the land of Wano, in the magical land of Wano, there's only two options. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. At least that's what happened to Drake.
No, but seriously, he says you can either follow the strong or disobey them and live your life in hiding. And I think the reason for why he's saying that, specifically to Luffy and Zoro, is because he himself is tired of living in the shadows and hiding. So I don't think they're going to fight. And even if they did, I mean, what can Hawkins really do against Luffy and Zoro?
As far as I know, the only technique that Hawkins has that he could use to be able to stall Luffy and Zoro to some extent would be that voodoo doll technique where he makes these little dolls and he uses them to redirect damage to somebody else. But I feel like that would only be like a stalling tactic. So I definitely think he's there to discuss and dialogue and propose an alliance.
The ending panel of the chapter, though, I think is fantastic. Even if it doesn't lead to an actual fight, I think that's just a really good way to end the chapter. Just like the dialogue in that final panel is just really good because it highlights the common denominator, the common essence between these two characters, and why they chose each other to go on this journey. So really good chapter of One Piece. Those are my thoughts. Please let me know yours down in the comments section. Talk about the points that I brought up or your thoughts in general. Like the video if you did, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. I apologize for this being late, but I'm not home, so I hope you understand. Thanks a bunch. Catch you later. Bye.